Fall is back, and that means weekly football and more. Join us today for discussion on the games this week and the best picks in the biz. This is Short End of the Pick with Richard and Kurt.
Hey guys, welcome back to Season 2 of Short End of the Pick with Richard and Kurt. Hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, which I'm sure you are, as we are only broadcasting via YouTube right now, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're staying up to date on all our stuff. Hit that little notification bell too. Make sure you're getting all of those updates whenever we're posting things. We retooled our entire format, so we're going to be focusing solely on sports now, and we want to make sure that you guys are staying in touch with everything that we are doing. We also have our Twitter account and a brand new Instagram going live.
Yeah.
And look for those now.
We're going to have to start posting stuff, actually.
Exactly. Look for those new short clip episodes so you can see what we're doing.
What are those handles, by the way?
Regularly.
Twitter and Instagram, they're both?
At Podcast SEP. At Podcast SEP.
There you
Reminder of Short End of the Pick there. But hey, we're doing all sports now, so that means that we're going to be talking about exclusively NFL, college football, and English Premier League every week. Plus, we're going to be talking about all other kinds of sports.
Whatever
National
else is
Hockey
going on.
League.
We got a lot going on.
Yeah, NHL this week, NBA this week, MLB this week, maybe a couple other things going on other weeks.
Yeah, it's and there's a lot going on. We're gonna have an MLS as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wrapping
Exactly.
up, so there's going to be stuff every week. But for this week, the stories that we've got, we're going to start out with NFL, and we're just going to go around and hit off some of these stories. And with NFL, we've got week 3 done. So we got the early season standings. We got to discuss what's going on, who's looking good, and including big hitter matchup between the Chiefs and the Ravens this past weekend. That was
big hitter.
A lot of people talking about. Chiefs end up winning by 14, so we'll talk about that. Where does that leave the standings? College football is now in full swing after week 4, although everyone's kind of jumping in different times. LSU, though, lost their big season opener to Mississippi State. Huge result. What does that mean for LSU season and the SEC?
Mm-hmm.
We also have Big Ten and Pac-12 looming in the background. Big Ten's going to join a couple weeks from now. So, yeah.
Yeah, and then, of course,
lots of football.
English Premier League, which I mentioned on the top too. We're going to be talking about the Manchester City Leicester game, which Leicester had a big win in that. But we'll also touch a little bit on why we think there's so many high-scoring games early on.
Weird.
And what's going on there, and maybe if we can expect that going forward in the season. Also, Tampa Bay Lightning hoist the Stanley Cup in Game 6 Monday night. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about who won the Conn Smythe and Tampa Bay's journey into the Stanley Cup finals and eventually their victory.
Yeah, man, that's been a long time. So that wraps up NHL. We'll talk about all that stuff. And NBA, just starting the finals. NBA finals tipping off here with the Heat and the Lakers. So we'll talk about what kind of key players that we think are going to be in this series, and also what are our thoughts on how the series is going to turn out. And MLB playoffs are also just now kicking, starting off they're just now underway, like earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday, actually, right, were the first playoff
Yep.
games. The playoffs is a different format this year, so we're going to talk about that odd format and what teams we think are going to come out and do well in the MLB. And with that, make sure that you stick around to the end of this episode so that you can catch Dick's picks and Captain's Log for the number 1 premier top pick that we have for this week. So we're going to pick one game each week, the best game, and make our picks. Richard and I will make individual picks, Dick's picks and Captain's Log. Mm-hmm. So if you want to hear our picks for that game, what do we want to say? Do we want to say what sport it's from? Give them a little teaser?
I think you give them the sport.
Okay, it's going to be football.
Yeah, okay.
It's going to be a football pick. So you got to stick around and find out.
You got to find out what's going on.
And we'll give that at the end. So stick around and make sure you're subscribed so you can stay with us every week. But let's get right into NFL. What do we got going on this week?
Well, let's just touch right off the bat. Let's focus on the highlights from this past week. And we'll talk about a few scores, the important ones. We don't have enough time to get through everything. Number 1, Dolphins 31, Jags 13. That was a big win for the Dolphins there. 49ers Giants. The 49ers win 36-9. Rams versus the Bills. That's 32 Rams. Bills 35. Bengals Eagles, the first tie of the season, 23-23. Packers 37 against the Saints 30. Chiefs 34, Ravens 20. We're going to talk about that.
One.
And the Cowboys 31, Seahawks 38.
Yeah, lots of big games there. Really consequential. And so we got a few head turners for this week. These are games that, hey, caught our attention because just like sort of a shocking result.
Yeah.
Starting off with the Dolphins against the Jags.
Yeah.
Why is this one so kind of? It just feels like it shouldn't have been that big of a gap.
Yeah. You look at the Dolphins coming off of last season. They're like a 4 and they have 4 wins or something like that last season, all of last season. Jags, who also weren't particularly good, but you're not expecting a blowout kind of game like that necessarily.
Right.
And the Dolphins came in, marched into Jacksonville and punched them up a little bit, 31-13.
Yeah, last year it was the whole tank for Tua thing, and the Dolphins a lot of people expected them to get the number 1 overall pick. They ended up actually finishing whatever, not the worst. I think they were 3rd or 4th at least.
Something like that.
And so maybe they traded down to ended up, or something like that. They ended up getting Tua. They're not starting him. But there is an energy about the Dolphins that's, hey, we're a little bit better this season. And the Jags, they're only 2 seasons removed from that AFC Championship game.
That's true.
But they've kind of crumbled. They've lost that defensive edge.
Yeah, the defensive edge was the big one.
They're not they don't have a quarterback that's going to get you results.
Minshew right now, I think.
Yeah, so they're putting things together, but Dolphins, impressive.
Yeah, they got Fitzmagic. I don't, I'll say this real quick. I don't know why they're not starting Tua. I kind of think that they probably should have. You went all that way to get him, and I know that maybe you do a little here and there to see who's starter.
If you don't think he's ready, you don't think he's ready.
Yep.
It's that simple.
That's the reality.
Fitzpatrick has a lot of experience, and this could be a bridge year. Who knows what can happen? I mean, this is a season where they're in the same division as the Patriots. The Patriots, who used to win year in year out, aren't the same team. You could argue without Brady. And so, what can happen there? Is the division open for the taking? Who knows?
Potentially.
But the next head turner game is the Bengals and Eagles.
Yeah, so the reason why this one is just straight up because of the tie.
Yeah,
those aren't all the time. Although there was one last year too, maybe even a couple last year. So it's kind of weird.
There's always a couple.
But it's the Bengals.
That's right.
The Eagles hosting the Bengals. The Eagles are in the NFC. Is it East? I'm sorry. The Eagles are in the NFC East. For whatever reason, the NFC East cannot pull together a win. I'm sorry, but it's just a weird looking conference.
Bad this year,
right
now.
Yeah, a division, I should say. And so the Eagles needed a win here to just sit on top with two. I think they have 1 win right now. They're 1-2 right now after or one. I should say, they have 1 draw, 1 tie. So they don't have any wins.
With the tie.
But it's just, I mean,
even last year, it's like they were. It was looking like whoever was going to win that division was going to have like a barely winning record. It's just like, and it's the Washington football team. It's just no one can get wins there. The Eagles they're another one that came a couple of years ago was on the top of the world.
And it's just so weird because they have talent there too. Like the Cowboys look good. I
feel like the Eagles' talent's not that different than what it was when they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Other than Foles isn't there anymore.
Yeah, but he didn't carry them through that. I mean, what I mean is they were 13-3 or something in the regular season that year with Wentz, and they've still got him. I don't know. It's just still have the same coaching staff and everything.
Bengals Joe Burrow. Is he being effective?
I don't know. I haven't watched enough to really see. I know he got banged up in a big hit.
He got beat up pretty bad.
But hey, it's a tie. It's really interesting.
I think he's been okay, but it's just not. The Bengals aren't turning around really quickly. They need to do something to their line or bolster their line. They got stuff to do, but you don't expect anything coming out.
But a tie can be consequential, I think, especially in NFC East with the Eagles.
That's true.
You never know. I mean, if it's coming down to the wire, but with the win-loss record, if you've got a tie instead of a loss, or if you got a tie instead of a win, who knows? I mean, it can break one way or another. This was kind of one of duking out with the Cowboys.
Yeah. The Cowboys just lost to the Seahawks, the 31-38 that we mentioned in the important scores, and they were mounting a comeback. This was going to be like their second week in a row where they mounted a big comeback just to topple over the Seahawks.
Impressive.
But then the Seahawks ended up winning that game. But it's just weird that entire conference. So
and the last head turner game of the week is Chiefs at Ravens, and this was a 14-point win for the Chiefs. What was that? 30. What was the
34
to 20?
Yeah, 34 to 20.
So you had Jackson and Mahomes
Mahomes. Yeah.
matching up. So it was a marquee matchup there. And
For sure.
What ended up happening? I mean, did you watch any of that game?
I didn't watch any of that game, but I'm pretty surprised that the Ravens didn't put up a little bit better of a fight. They probably got
Right.
I mean, in the AFC, there's two teams with the best offenses.
They were supposed to win the AFC last year.
Yeah.
Remember, they got knocked out early in the playoffs
Yeah.
by, I think, the Titans.
I mean, this is just, like you said, marquee matchup. I mean, these are two big hitters. And it's just surprising that the Ravens could only put up 20 and allowed 34. They're supposed to have one of the better defenses in the league. It's
Right.
like the 49ers, and then who's next?
They
Probably
actually,
someone like the
even
Ravens
after
or
that
something.
game, they still do have the best, one of the best defenses numerically,
Mm-hmm.
points allowed. But it just goes to show you how dominant their defense looked going into this, and it just didn't show up as much. Well, you're playing Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes, yeah.
So I think it speaks more to just the dominance of him and how the Chiefs are putting themselves front runner position for the AFC.
He's always gunning for that MVP right there. Him and look out for Russell Wilson this year. Dude has 5
He threw 5 and
touchdowns in the last 2 games and then 4 in the first game. Pretty wild. He's going for a
It's looking good.
career season.
Yeah, and there was a sneaky good team of the week. I think I snuck this in here.
Yeah.
Because it was an interesting game, and there's been a lot of talk that I've heard about the Cardinals, and we were talking about this a lot. Are the Cardinals going to be good this year or not? It's really interesting. There's some inexperience, but also some. I mean, it's not total inexperience. Inexperience at the quarterback position, talent, but and now he's got the target with the
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, the receiver, Hopkins, and so. Cardinals came off of 2 impressive wins to start the season, and they went against the Lions, who had 2 losses.
Yeah, they beat the 49ers in week 1, which was weird.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone was expecting that. And that conference, or I don't know why I keep saying conference. That division's a particularly tough one, the NFC West
absolutely.
right now.
That's going to be the strong.
That looks like a tough one. It's got the 49ers, got the Rams, got the Seahawks. So that's going to be a tough division for Cardinals to do anything in. But they beat the 49ers, looking like they could probably pull it off. And they're playing a Lions team that had no wins. They got absolutely smacked by the Packers the week before, and then the Cardinals just fell asleep or something. It's hard for me to explain. I watched some of the game, but he threw I can't think of his name. Kyler Murray threw 3 interceptions against the Lions defense. I don't know.
Well, that's that inexperience that I go back to. I mean, just because you're talented doesn't mean you're not going to throw interceptions. And there's a fine line between being successful as a quarterback in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, you can sling it. If you throw picks, you're going to lose games.
Yeah.
And so the Lions just came out and they were sneaky good.
Yeah.
Ended up picking up their first
I kind of want I don't know. I guess maybe it was getting the best of me, but I kind of want I like the Lions, but I kind of wanted to see the Cardinals do something because that's such a tough division. I think it would be cool to just see a bunch of big, strong teams duking it out. Kind of a little unfortunate for them. But
they'll have time, but that goes back to what I was saying about the consistency. Can the Cardinals have talent? It looks like they have a good defense actually now that I'm looking at the numbers. But can they be consistent with their results with wins and losses?
Yeah, that's a good point. Righty. Do you want to move right into what's coming up?
Yeah,
what's
what's coming up this week? What are our top 3 big matchups, Richard?
I think our top 3 most consequential games are. I'm going to say number 1, Steelers Titans. Both teams are 3-0 right now. A little bit of something wacky going on there with the Titans. They just.
That's right.
This is breaking news.
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, this is going to be quick, but we'll maybe talk about it a little later. But Titans, 3 of their players and 5 of the staff tested positive for COVID-19, so they have a break. They have to take a break from practicing until at least Friday. They can only start practicing again on Saturday. So it sounds like they probably are still going to play this game if they can just figure out, who's potentially infected or whatever.
Practiced?
But without having practice, it's going to cost them a little bit. But they're still 3-0, and I think that they still have enough talent that if the people that aren't a part, that won't be a part of the game on Sunday aren't consequential players, it's still going to be a consequential game in my opinion.
They're not going to release. Well, I guess they have to release who it is at some point. Did we get names?
I don't know, but they're also keeping an eye on Minnesota because they just played them last week or recently, and they want to make sure that everything's crystal clear on that.
So
I will say this: they did have 77 positive tests in the NFL before the start of the season. And then found out that all of those were false negative. They didn't have a single one.
That.
So maybe the Titans might be in a better position than they think they are. Number 2, Patriots at the Chiefs. this is another big AFC duke it out kind of thing.
Yep.
Mostly because the Patriots have been so dominant in the AFC. Is it East or North? AFC North.
Yep.
And so they need to basically say, hey, it's not Tom Brady that did all this. It's our coaching and our defense, and
Right.
we have great talent in Cam Newton. So to be able to dethrone the Chiefs, who I don't think have lost a game yet, would be pretty consequential for them. Plus, the Bills right now are leading the division, so they kind of need to be able to stay step in step with them. You can't let the Bills take too much of a lead right now because they look pretty healthy as far as talent's concerned.
Right. This is definitely a Patriots prove-it game, and the Chiefs, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. But Cam has to grow into that game manager type role, and match with what Belichick's trying to do. I think that they've looked okay so far.
Mm-hmm.
They lost to somebody.
Yeah, I can't think of it right now. But they only have one.
But it wasn't a horrible loss,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it might have even been to the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So they didn't look too bad in that game either. So
Yeah.
they need
against
to prove their stuff.
against a guy that is having a career season. So yeah, it's okay that you have that one.
Sometimes you got these you play these tough teams at the beginning of the season, and you come out with a bad record to start out with, but you're proven now, and you've fixed a lot of things that you otherwise wouldn't have looked at, and you come out roaring at the later part of the season.
That is a great transition to our third and final one, I think personally, and that's going to be the Chargers and the Bucks that we're going to be looking at because, again, the Bucks. So the Bucks are 2-1, and the Chargers are 1-2 after 3 weeks of play, and the Bucks. They had that misstep against the Saints at the opening off in the season here.
The Saints aren't an easy team to beat.
No, by no
I don't
means
think
an easy
anyone
team.
would have said that the Bucks should have beat the Saints.
Yeah, but it was an opportunity to kind of feel out how they're going to play within the division.
Right.
Because the Saints are kind of the bellwether of the division. If you get beat outright by the Saints by 35 points, then obviously it's going to look pretty bad for you. But they held their own. I mean, they ended up losing that game, but I don't think it was like
And on the flip
awful.
coin, if you could have beaten the Saints, you would have established yourself right away.
Exactly.
But now
And
they
so
lost. They've got to dig in and reestablish.
And they did. I think they did a good job in their last two games.
Their defense looks wildly good.
It's stacked, dude. They have
Yeah.
so many talented
And
players.
I thought it would be the other way with Brady and all the weapons. I thought the offense would look good, and immediately the defense would have to catch up. It's the other way around, in my opinion, for the Bucks.
Yeah, for sure. Not to say that the offense doesn't have immense talent, but they certainly stepped it up on that defensive side. And for the Chargers, they don't have Tyrod Taylor right now, so I can't think of his name. Justin Herbert is playing currently, and when he took over in the second game of the season, he did a really good job. They ended up winning that game, I think. But
I didn't see.
they just played the Carolina Panthers and ended up losing that game. So he's kind of in a weird, confusing spot where is he good, is he bad? You don't necessarily know. I think maybe he'll have to play one more game. Tyrod Taylor's got a punctured lung, but they're looking to bring him back. I think that you give the starting position
play
to
with
the
a punctured lung.
I have no idea, but he apparently
That guy's out there taking hits all the time. He's a running quarterback.
I don't know, man. I don't know what they did. Maybe there's something going on there, but
well, that'll be a good game.
It'll be a good game. If the
it's
Chargers
at the Bucks, right?
Yeah, it's at the Bucks. If the
travel.
if the Chargers can do something here, I think that they can stand a good chance of duking it out for a good position within their division.
That's an open division, with the Broncos and the Raiders. So I just want to touch on some of the best defenses by the numbers and offenses. There's some close, but just talking about this, the Bucks have the best defense, it looks like, so far. Obviously, it depends on who you've played so far, but 3 games in, Bucks and then Cardinals and Bears also shortly behind them, and the NFC, that's in the NFC, and then the AFC, the Colts, Ravens, Steelers, Chargers. There's a couple other teams that look good as well, but those teams are heavy they haven't allowed any points. So I'm looking at the Colts especially going, wow, okay, that's pretty cool. And we already mentioned the Ravens so far. Like if the Ravens can continue that kind of a defense, you're going to give yourself a shot. You might have a game where you stop the Chiefs every once in a while. So, and then with offenses, you're looking really in the NFC at the Seahawks and the Packers. Now the Packers have been really good.
Explosive.
They've looked really good so far. And in the AFC, the Bills actually,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Ravens and the Chiefs, obviously for obvious reasons. With
Mm-hmm.
the Ravens
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
Chiefs.
yeah. Notably, the Bills have not won the division since the 1990s. So if they can pull it off this year, this will be the first time in over 2 decades.
And they're 3-0.
Yeah.
And New England is vulnerable. You could say. I mean, who knows? But
we'll see how it pans out.
yeah. So let's go with this week's picks for NFL.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple games.
Yeah. So we're gonna do 2 mutual picks for this. We conversed about this ahead of time, and then.
Yeah, these are picks straight from us, and we conspired to get the best
Yeah.
picks.
And right off the bat, we're gonna go that Steelers Titans game. I'm looking at our spread here, and it looks like we're picking the Steelers by 6. I think that's a safe bet, particularly regarding what we had just said. They're going to go
Titans.
almost a full, half a week or at least almost a full week without any meaningful practice potentially.
Yep.
The Steelers are looking to establish themselves in what is a really tough AFC division with the Ravens, and so they need. This is gonna, they're both these teams are 3-0, so they both need wins. But
it's a big AFC matchup, and the spread on this one from the books is Steelers advantage 1. So we're really picking in the Steelers advantage, in the Steelers' favor. But like you said, with this news just breaking about the Titans, maybe the bookies can change. So if you put your bets in quick,
yeah. Slide them in there.
No, but I like that Steelers advantage. I mean, I think the Steelers are overlooked a lot.
Yeah.
Last year they didn't have a complete squad. They didn't have Roethlisberger all season.
I think most of their players are healthy right now.
Yeah, so they've really gotten back together. So they look great right now, the Steelers, and this is an opportunity for them to take advantage of a Titans team that did really well last year.
Mm-hmm.
Other game we have is going to be that Chiefs-Patriots matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And what are we looking at here? I saw that the spread here was for the Chiefs to be an advantage by 7 points over the Patriots, which makes tons of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, coming back to that whole, what you said about Cam Newton, is he going to be able to keep up with the talent of Patrick Mahomes in as far as points are concerned? Just being able to keep up with that. You look at this the way that they treated the Ravens and beat them by 14. Right. I think it's totally reasonable to have seen to see a spread that they're suggesting. So
right, and not to say anything about John Harbaugh, the Ravens, but the Patriots, do have Belichick, and he will game plan, and he'll do his best to hold it tight. But like you say, the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and if you can't stop them early, it can get out.
I mean, they have Super Bowl back behind them too, so they're fighting for pride here.
So what's our pick here?
We're picking Chiefs over the Patriots by 8. So the spread was 7. We're picking by 8. We think that they can do a little bit better.
Go over, yeah. I don't know how you could pick under that spread.
Yeah, I don't
so
know.
let's shift into college football now and talk about some of the stuff that's been going on. It's been pretty weird because different teams have been playing, for like 3 or 4 weeks now, and some teams just started. So different number of games going on. But, we have the news about Big Ten and Pac-12. I didn't see exactly the week that Pac-12 is coming in, but 2 weeks from this weekend is when Big Ten's going to kick off.
Yeah.
So got to wait for mid-October to late October on those 2 conferences. And that'll keep things kind of, I don't want to say boring, but it'll keep things a little bit more SEC focused.
Yeah, for sure. I just don't see this kind of like brings in that fact that they have currently in the AP rankings, those are up in the air. Those two divisions, conferences. That's what it is. The Big Ten, like Ohio State's ranked number 6, and they're not going to play a game for 2 more weeks.
Well, are they going to play a full schedule? Do we know that?
I think that they're probably going to do a little bit compacted.
They're not going to have 12 games.
I just don't see how you could necessarily be ranking those teams against teams that have played multiples of more games.
And no one knows. I don't know yet. I haven't read anything. How's that going to play out when it gets to the final, like the top 4? Are we still going to do this whole college football playoff thing, and how are we going to rate like Ohio State undefeated but only played 7 games or something like that?
Yeah, it's a little weird. I wish that honestly at that point it's just a little confusing as to why you would have waited so long.
Well, it's I'm not going to blame them, but it's like we'll figure this out as the season goes along.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we have SEC, we have ACC going full strength.
Speaking of which, what were the important scores from last week?
Yeah, one of the big ones was Kansas State upsetting Oklahoma, which Big 12 is also.
Oklahoma went almost undefeated last year. No, 2 losses.
Yeah, that's a huge one in my opinion. I just think that some teams are just not up to speed. That's a huge upset there for Kansas State. Texas beat Texas Tech 63-56, and Texas is ranked, I think, in the top 10. Points. I think they're ranked 9. But yeah, that was 119.
Yeah. Wow.
Total score.
Wow.
That's right. But Texas, that's a Big 12. That's a classic Big 12 final score. Yeah,
of course.
But Texas is always going to be if Texas can put up points like that.
Hope you bet off the over on that one.
Look out for them. So, and then Mississippi State beating LSU 44-34. That was a huge one, and we'll talk a little bit about what that's going to mean for LSU moving forward. We'll talk about that in what's coming up section. But also Tennessee beating South Carolina to start out SEC play for them. Tennessee's now ranked on the board. They beat them 31-27.
Wow.
South Carolina's got a good defense. That Tennessee, South Carolina, those are kind of like lower SEC East teams. But,
yeah, I will say if there was any conference that you wanted to keep going, it'd be the SEC as far as like just fun football is concerned.
Yeah,
those
historic.
Yeah.
Good teams.
Yep.
And Tennessee they took an early lead there. Anyone's trying to look to sneak in. If you can upset the Gators, I mean, Georgia could take a beating in the SEC, and you could always slip in it with one lucky win. Or
ACC like too, because they have Clemson, who went to the finals last year. Anyway.
Yeah. So, what do you think about this big upset, though? Mississippi State.
That's
LSU.
That's pretty wild because
you were saying something about how they're the first.
Yeah, they're the first team to have lost their season opener
after winning the
championship in like 3 decades or something like that. It's pretty like since like the 80s or something. I don't have the exact
Joe
number.
Burrow is a big part of that, right?
Yeah, of course. Who obviously left.
They have a defense. Supposedly, they still had a defense.
Yeah, and
had Ed Ogeron.
Yeah, and I mean
they allowed 44 against Mississippi State.
I just don't. I don't know that necessarily LSU was banking on their defense when they won last year. Like they were banking on the drive. The drive that's going to get the touchdown, and you're going to do that 5 times a game. And get up into the 40s. Put it on the ground, put it.
So maybe they didn't have a defense.
I mean they did. I mean not that they didn't have a defense, but coming off of how talented an individual Joe Burrow was and all that, maybe you came in with you came in with expectations that you just couldn't possibly meet. Mississippi State has nothing to lose.
And here's another thing: Mississippi State, maybe people don't know this, but Mike Leach is the coach there now. The guy that was isn't that the guy that was up at Washington State? I mean, he was always prolific offenses.
You know better than me.
Those guys would always just sling the ball around, right? And that's what their game plan is on. I mean, they're an offensive built team now. Based on the coach. I mean, that's a big coach coming down into the SEC. And we're going to talk about Heisman watch and KJ Costello, the quarterback. He threw for 623 yards in that game.
Wow.
So that's going to tell you what Mississippi State is going to look like. Now, do I think that's going to work against Alabama? Probably not. But, start looking out because if they can use that kind of coaching to tear up a team like LSU, who knows what they can do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's a tough team to stop at that point.
Yeah, it's credit to LSU for getting 30+ points though. So they still put it up.
That's how Mississippi State's going to want it to be though.
Yeah,
if they can high scoring games, they're gonna beat those shootouts. Hopefully. Now, obviously we have Clemson number 1 and Alabama number 2. I wanted to talk about this. What are some other teams that are looming down there in the top 10, top 15 that we think might have a stab at doing something, making a move, getting top 4?
I mean, this comes back, full circle again, back to a lot of these teams that aren't getting to play until later in October, and it's just going to give a lot of room for some of these big, tough teams in the SEC and the ACC to kind of like butt their way in. I saw a little bit of University of Miami just absolutely tear apart Florida State University, who honestly not the greatest team in the world, but still tore them apart. Obviously Clemson, like you said,
it's exactly
University of Florida, University of Georgia. Yeah. I mean, Auburn. These are some big, heavy hitters that aren't going to have to contend with Big Ten and Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at University of Florida and Georgia, obviously they're both in the SEC East, and that's going to come down to them playing each other. But Auburn and Georgia game they're going to play each other. Georgia's going to play Alabama. Auburn's going to play Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Florida's going to play Alabama, but those teams are always kind of off of each other. But University of Florida is ranked 3. They're ranked number 3 right now, above Georgia.
I didn't realize that.
So this, people might be looking at Florida going, this might be their year. I mean, what's keeping them from beating Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? But you're right. University of Miami looks really good, and they've played more than one game at this point. They've looked good. I've heard some rumblings about them.
They got that gold
What's
chain
keeping
going
them from
on.
making a little bit of a move here? So they're actually our sneaky good team of the week.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Based off that FSU win that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, also Oklahoma got knocked off by Kansas State, as we said, and what does that do? I mean, Oklahoma, are they going to have a chance to get back in? I mean, I guess if
they
they
had
win
a chance
the
last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they ended up having a loss or two and still made the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. But it's gonna raise questions if you have an undefeated Big Ten winner that only played 8 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why this is kind of like a little bit weird,
and
because
Oklahoma has one loss, but they've played 12.
Because I'm thinking that if the AP keeps updating, and if we see Ohio State start to drop off the next couple of weeks because they're not playing games, then it's like these SEC teams and ACC teams that are the top 5. How could you possibly rank a number 1 that loses to number 5? It's not like you can rank them number 25 now or something. It's just going to be like a little mix and match of the top like 10,
Yeah.
So for them to sneak in is going to be a little tough. I'd be surprised to see.
Yeah. Moving into like what's coming up, Oklahoma, LSU, those are 2 teams that might be top 4 teams, but they both picked up losses in their first. Well, I guess Oklahoma might not be their first week, but early in the season here against a team they're supposed to beat.
Yeah.
Really, their seasons aren't over with 1 loss. They just have to win out now.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's kind of.
This might be like a shake 'em awake kind of deal,
you
said
would hope if you're an LSU fan.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it does, because otherwise you cannot lose another game almost.
Yeah. I mean, they've got tough matchups too, man.
Yeah.
It's so hard to tell what's going on.
So, SEC, we got a couple really big matchups coming up this week. Texas A&M is ranked 13. They beat Vanderbilt, I think 17-11 or something weird like that. Really defensive game. They're ranked 13. They're going to play at Alabama this weekend, ranked number 2 Alabama. Auburn, ranked 7, is going to play Georgia. That's going to be another huge consequential game. And so those are some big ones. I don't think there's a ton of other big games out there this week, but I did want to talk about Notre Dame and them being in the ACC this year. And so I don't know if you heard about that, but they've licensed themselves into the ACC just for this season.
Oh, okay.
So they could schedule games or something weird like that. They couldn't schedule games against their usual opponents like Big Ten early this season. So they're actually playing in the ACC. They're in the table. So you have Miami, Notre Dame, who's ranked number 5, by the way, and Clemson. And so that dynamic of there being a lot more competition than the ACC challenging Clemson, is that really, you think that's going to change Clemson's chances to have an easy path right to the top 4?
I don't think it necessarily does. It depending on Notre Dame's schedule. If they end up playing Clemson, I don't know what their schedule looks like.
I think they do.
Okay, so if they do, I mean, they beat up on each other. There's potential. I mean, it could shake things up. Clemson is still that team that's just not a lot has changed. They still have Trevor Lawrence.
They still have Lawrence, and that's the. And Etienne, they're running back.
There you go. I mean, they're such a hard-nosed offensive team and defensive team. They've got so much going for them.
So you think they're pretty much a lock-in still?
I think
even
that
with Miami looking good and Notre Dame.
I think they can still beat Miami. They probably can beat Notre Dame. I don't see the way they couldn't.
Yeah, they play them on the 7th of November.
The only thing that I think ends up happening is that other teams in the ACC see a lot more losses than they would have otherwise, because Notre Dame's gonna
Virginia's not gonna have a shot like they usually do. Pitt is ranked 24.
Yeah,
that's not gonna.
yeah.
So okay, yeah. So that was a question I had. I mean, Notre Dame, that's a big, but I do think that Notre Dame, they're ranked number 5. Are they really that good? It's always hard to tell with Notre Dame because they don't have that established, and they always seem to underperform a little bit based on their ranking.
I guess this year we'll see.
And speaking of Lawrence and Etienne, I wanted to hit our Heisman hunch. And we'll just kind of go over this every week. Now, we had Lawrence, who threw for 519 yards. He's got 400. I'm sorry, he's got 4 touchdown passes.
400 touchdowns. What?
four touchdown passes, but also 3 touchdown rushes. I guess this is in 2 games. But yeah, 81.8% completion percentage.
Wow.
So I think he's the top expected Heisman.
He's got a quarterback rating of like
so
a million.
Far. This is the weirdness of different teams really starting at different times. Some guys have 3 games under the belt. Some guys only have 1. So it's going to be hard to compare. But you also have Travis Etienne, who has rushed 170 yards, has a touchdown, has a few receptions as well. Not the greatest numbers, but people think that he's going to do well over the course of the season. He's also he's right behind Lawrence. Basically, Lawrence and Etienne. If Lawrence doesn't win it, Etienne's the most likely. But I mentioned KJ Costello. He threw the 623. So game 1 under his belt, 623 yards with 5 touchdown passes. Now,
we'll see how that pans out going forward. But I mean,
it's only 60% completion and 2 interceptions. But who knows? I mean, with that style offense, Mike Leach, that's what he's known for. Is really the passing, quick passing.
Joe Burrow 2.0.
Nah, I don't know about that. But, Kyle Trask is also up there with 71.4% completion in his 1 game, 416 yards, 6 touchdown passes in that first game. Kyle Trask. And we knew he was pretty good from last season. Sam Ehlinger, the longtime quarterback starting for Texas, he's got 1 touchdown rushing with 71% completion percentage and 688 yards on 10 touchdown passes and 1 interception. I think that's in 2 or 3 games. So,
10 touchdowns in
he's
one
going
game.
to look no, that's not 1 game. But he did have the 63-point game.
Yeah.
That was, Texas. So those are our Heisman hunch so far. So we'll take a look at that as we go on.
For sure.
And
keep track of that.
The games that we have coming up, this week's pick for college football. What do we got?
Let's start with the SMU Memphis game. The spread.
This is a good one.
Yeah, the better spread.
Y'all are lucky you have us.
Yeah. The better spread suggests Memphis by 3. What are you thinking about
That's what the bookies are saying. Memphis is actually ranked, I think, 25 in the AP poll.
Yeah, they were like weren't they the AAC champs last year, or was that UCF?
Oh, that's got to be UCF.
Yeah.
But Memphis was in the championship game.
Yep.
And they looked good for the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
Although I think their coach got hired by Norvell. Didn't he get hired by FSU? I haven't been keeping up with that. But yeah, coaching change at Memphis. But who knows? I mean, they've got a system. They've got talent. But SMU also has talent. Memphis has only played 1 game.
Yeah.
And they won.
Yeah.
But like 37-24. SMU's played 3 games already. They're all against like non-conference teams, lower teams, but 3-0 SMU. So we picked SMU to beat Memphis by 4. So we picked 7 against the spread in favor of SMU.
Yeah, I think that's okay though, because SMU really has been building themselves as a team for a while now.
I think it's at SMU as well.
At SMU. Sorry, I don't know what I said before. SMU? Yeah. But if you look back even just like a few seasons, like maybe like 3 seasons ago, they weren't a team that you were like, okay, this team is going to be, middle of the pack even, I don't think.
Right.
Towards the last couple of seasons here, they've actually looked a lot like, a team that's a challenge, a team that's kind of tough to beat. Yeah.
That's how it is in the AAC. Yeah. I mean, it's a very dynamic league. Any team, if they put a few things together and they put it together an offense that can score some points, they have a chance.
Yeah, I think they can sneak in here with a lot of practice under their belt, a few teams that beaten, and I think that's a healthy pick.
All right, and also we have Alabama and Texas A&M. This is actually at Alabama. So Texas A&M, like I said, ranked 13. The spread, the bookies have the spread at 17 in favor of Alabama.
Seems a bit ambitious.
Yeah, we picked Alabama just because, I mean, Texas A&M is ranked 13. And their defense performed really well against Vanderbilt, as expected, but you think that they're going to walk in there. I mean, I know Alabama's Alabama, but
yeah. I guess the only concern would be that Texas A&M can't put up enough points if Alabama starts to pull away, but
right.
I mean, I just don't. I mean, 17, a spread of 17.
Texas A&M is going to fight.
Yeah.
They're gonna put up a challenge, and we picked an 11-point spread.
Yeah. 11-point spread.
Who knows though? Like you said, Alabama could run away, but
yeah.
we're
I mean, you're still
matchup.
thinking Alabama here though. You're still thinking
Oh,
Alabama.
yeah.
Of
Alabama
course.
all the way.
You're not gonna not
especially
say that.
because it's at Alabama. Not that there's fans in the stands anyway, but there's always that psyche of Texas A&M being at home.
Yeah.
They're one of they have one of the best home away differentials. Texas A&M. They've got the 13th man there. Huge crowds when they, obviously when they have fans. I don't know what the whole situation is, if they have partial capacity or whatnot, but it's just one of those psychological things. But it's at Alabama. They got to travel. I'm thinking Alabama.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that you go. I don't think you go the other way.
And that wraps up our picks for college football. Remember, between one of these two, NFL and college football, we got our big pick, our Dick's Picks and Captain's Log at the end of this.
At the end of the episode,
So
do we hint to them which should we hint to them a little bit? Which one?
Yeah, it'll be a college football pick. We already mentioned it in this episode already, so stay tuned to the end to get that one. We won't give away any more.
Yeah,
we'll keep it a surprise, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, make sure that you are commenting down below what you think about these picks, and as we're making these picks, what do you all think? And make sure you like this video if you like our picks.
For sure, hit that subscribe
button. We're really
button.
going out on a limb with a couple of these.
Yeah, I think that they're good picks though, man.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident.
To English Premier League then. English Premier League. We're 3 weeks in. No, we're
3 weeks in.
Yeah, 3 weeks in. So head turner games of the week that we had over this past week. And we'll catch up a little bit. I mean, yeah, we'll catch up a little bit with who's still undefeated or who has a perfect record still. Mm-hmm. But the head turner games of the week were West Brom Chelsea, 3-3. Now this is one where West Brom got out to a 3-0 lead. I think they went into halftime, 3-0. Then Chelsea caught back up.
Yikes!
And scored the equalizer late.
You can't sleep on Chelsea on Chelsea's forwards.
Yeah, that's sad. And I think it was the first time that a team came back from 3-0 at halftime for 20 or 30 years or something like that. Wow. And I put in a typo here, but the next head turner game of the week is West Ham beating Wolves 4-0.
Whoa!
Now Wolves is a team that I love.
Wolves was a team that was doing okay.
They were doing really
last
well.
year.
I think they finished number 6.
Was it 6? Oh.
The last 2 seasons.
That's not bad. Top 6.
Or maybe 7 or 8.
7, I think maybe 7 or 8.
But
no,
still, they were good. They were knocking off they're not knocking off Tottenham. They were knocking off a lot of top Big 6 teams. They knocked off Manchester City last season, and they just have this grit. I mean, they don't have guys that are paid millions and millions. They're nowhere near the spending level of the Big 6 teams, but they're up there with them, and they're really competing. But something happened. They lost a couple players. They lost Jota, who's a really good young talent, to Liverpool. And yeah, it's just interesting. West Ham, of all teams, to beat them by 4 goals.
I don't think anyone was thinking that one.
And then of course our huge head turner game of the week was Manchester City, who a lot of people have favored to win the Premier League this season, losing to Leicester 5-2. They had conceded 5 goals against Leicester. It was the most goals conceded in Pep Guardiola's career as a manager, and it was his worst. It was tied with his worst defeat ever. 3 goal defeat.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, while we're on that, notably,
do you still have Man City winning the Premier League?
Oh gosh. So now I don't. Well, I mean, they're still going to be a good team.
We're only 3 games in.
You hope, if you're a Man City fan, I guess you hope that this is okay, we can't take anything for granted necessarily. The thing is, Leicester is a good team. I think you go into that game thinking this is not going to be particularly easy.
No, it was never going to be.
But you don't go in thinking they're going to post up 5.
5.
I think, to be fair, they conceded 3 penalties.
Right.
As well. So there's something to be said about
That's happened a lot to a lot of teams, and we'll talk about that with this whole why are scores so high. But that happened to them a lot in that game.
Yes, very specifically them. And then you looked on the offensive side; they had some good looks too. I should say Man City. They had looks that didn't end up going in.
Oh yeah,
they had.
They'll always have. I think they won possession by a lot.
Yeah, they had possession like 70% of the time, something ridiculous.
If you look at Leicester's success, going all the way back to their Premier League title win a few years ago, 15, 16 or 14, 15, whatever, they didn't win possession overall. If you look at all their games, I think they had like 42% of possession.
Wow.
This is how they win. This is how they beat teams. Jamie Vardy is a rat that just runs faster than everybody, and he scores goals on counterattacks.
Yeah.
And
he did something cheeky in that last game. Did you see his one goal?
I briefly saw all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's coming across. It was coming across, and he just popped it up over the goal.
He is amazing, but that's how this team works. They work on the counterattack, and it's stretched between managers now, but it's still the same effort. It's like. We're going to defend well. We've got a great goalkeeper. We've got good defending, solid defending, and everyone's going to do their job. And on the counterattack, it's boom. And this is where the big teams, even Liverpool, we've seen this season already, they're so vulnerable on this counterattack. And it's the one way that, really low teams in the table all the way up, other teams know these are their vulnerabilities. And it happened in a big way with Manchester City. I mean, this was a problem for Manchester City last year. It's the reason that they didn't really contend with Liverpool for the title. They had defensive shakiness. They brought in Nathan Ake. They try to shore that up. It's not working right now.
Yeah.
When you let 5 goals in with that counterattack, even though it's against Jamie Vardy and Leicester, it says a lot about your defense. And how's that defense going to look against all the teams that know that that's your vulnerability, and not to mention Liverpool.
Like you said, when you're a team that that can't spend the kind of money on these really highly talented players that can score goals, you just overwhelm them with the number of people in the back, and then put a couple of fast guys up on top to try and beat up. Because at a certain point, you got to start bringing in your midfielders, and then if you don't have enough, then you got to bring in some defenders to try and just break through that density.
Exactly. For Man City, it's like, okay, we'll give you all the possession. It's going to mean that you guys have everyone on this side of the in our final third almost, like even your defenders. So if we can just get a few guys past them,
it's like a hockey game almost.
Yeah. And speaking of Liverpool and how they're still undefeated, we've got Leicester and Liverpool not undefeated, but perfect.
Yeah.
All wins so far. Aston Villa has 2 wins, but they've only played 2 games. But Leicester, Liverpool, and Everton also all have 9 points through 3 games. Everton's looking really well.
Yeah.
They beat the Spurs, Tottenham to start off the season, and
haven't looked back ever since.
Like 5 goals in the next game. They've been picking up wins, and they've got a couple players, and who knows, they could finally crack past like top 8 or whatever.
It's still really early in the season. I don't want to make too many. I feel that way about any given sport in the fall, early in the fall like this. You can't make too many big.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, they look really good right now, and if they can hold that together, then we'll see how it goes.
Another team who looks really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
is Leeds. This is getting a lot of talk, I think, but. I've even saw an article about, can Leeds be the new Leicester?
No.
Winning the championship from being promoted.
That is just, I mean, they came out of here wildly impressively.
Talking about Liverpool being perfect, they only won that opener against Leeds 4-3.
So Leeds put the points up.
And then Leeds I think they beat Fulham 4-3 in their next match.
Yeah.
And then they beat Sheffield 1-0. So Leeds is... Oh, no.
No. They lost their most recent one. One of those.
Yeah.
But
maybe they lost 4-3 to somebody else.
Yeah,
Aston Villa. But they put up goals. Like, they put up at least 3 goals in their second game.
Was the big
and then
thing.
They beat Sheffield. Yeah, so...
I was talking to you about this a while ago. For a team that's getting promoted up like this, too, and you kind of want to make a name for yourself. You want to attract new players potentially. You just got promoted for the first time in at least a couple of seasons. I don't know the last time I saw Leeds necessarily.
Like 10 years at least.
Yeah, so it's been a while. You want to make noise, and what better way to do that than to just go out there and score 3 points against, who is it, Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Dude, I mean, that's just wild. No one expects that. Liverpool is a team that last season was beating teams 3-0. And confidently, you could put a 2 point victory against pretty much any team on the table.
Yeah.
With Liverpool.
And here's all it takes. I mean, you just tell your guys, like, just everyone get forward.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you're a defender, you're a striker now.
Yeah, yeah.
And look, we're going to concede goals, but look, on the off chance that we score a few against Liverpool, who knows? We can shake them in their boots and maybe get something.
Mm-hmm.
It gave them some confidence. They just said, look, we're just going to go attack. And if it takes emergency defending at the other end, we'll take a red card, we'll take a yellow card every now and then, and we'll just get through it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, it's working okay for them right now. They're looking good for a promoted team.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely, I imagine attracting the eyes of the players across the world. Maybe this is a team that you're willing to join. Are they the future Leicester?
Right. It's one of those things where if you do well, you can attract some talent. Not working out so well for Sheffield, but because they were a kind of a promoted team a couple years ago, and they've done well, and they did really well last year. You thought that they would be able to add some talent, but they didn't.
Hey, it's still early in the season. They can hopefully try to do something.
Yeah, turn that around. Now, talking about Leeds and scoring a lot of goals, what is it up with high-scoring matches this season?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that a lot of people have been complaining about in the English Premier League over the last couple days, over the last weekend, is the handball interpretation. Every manager seems to be united against the interpretation of the IFAB rule for handball. Tottenham actually gave away their conceding the tying the equalizing goal at the very end of the game against Newcastle on that. We saw it with Lindelof last week with Manchester United, and they ended up losing that game. Lots of penalties being called with this instant, what do you call it? VAR. And handball especially is on a lot of people's nerves.
Yeah. I think that, I heard some people just not particularly happy with the way that maybe it was getting called early on, just because it's new, maybe just people aren't used to it or whatever. But there's like incidental contact, and it's just hard to like sometimes even have the reaction time to get out of the way for some of these things.
It's all interpretation.
And so
it's a judgment call. What is a natural body position?
Yeah.
I mean, if my hand is out here, does my hand have to be here if it strikes here? If I'm like communicating with another player, we saw that. Dyer was just jumping, and his arms were flailing, but you have to do that when you jump.
Unless you want to
that's
hit
a
the ground.
natural way to jump.
Yeah.
He's not like sticking his hands up here above his shoulders, and I think there needs to be some tweaking there. That's what a lot of people are saying, at least. But I do think that that's part of the reason. I've seen a lot of this, and it's not just handballs. There's also some really ticky-tack penalties that are being called.
Yeah.
Is this the new way that Premier League football is being played going forward?
I don't think so. I think that
tighten up on this.
Yeah, Premier League has always been like known as that rough and tumble kind of.
Right.
You got to be a little physical and stuff. The three conceded penalties that Leicester was able to get 3 goals on weren't handball penalties. They were more like aggressive and stuff. I think that those were good calls too. So. I don't think across the board we're seeing bad calls. I just think that, we're getting an early start to a season that was kind of short, and people, there's.
And here's another thing. When you have, like a short turnaround to start the season, the defenders, the shape might not be very good. And so you've got guys that are just not up to speed yet.
Yeah.
And so they're making emergency defensive moves because they're getting beat. And there's a lot of energy. It's like everyone's rushing to the goal because you're starting the season. Maybe that's just the way it always is.
Yep, you're trying new things, and it's off of, like you said, that short season.
But look,
season.
With this new handball thing, if I'm a coach, I'm saying be more direct. Put the ball in the box. Let's see what happens. Let's pinball this thing around and
especially early on. When you know that potentially it's going to be.
Yep, and I think that's another part is that the refs are making these calls early in the season to set the tone. They don't want to let a lot go. They'd rather crack down on it and then get some pushback than let stuff go and just kind of be absent. The refs are kind of also starting the season saying, "Look, we're here."
Yeah. Well, if later on then you try to go, like if you give too much now and then later on you try to go back, they're going to be really confused then. At least now going a little bit easier, it's a little bit better.
So the sneaky good team of the week, and so far this season has been Everton.
Yep.
So do you think they can stay undefeated here? I don't have
quick
exactly
pick.
Who they're playing.
They're
They're playing someone easy.
If they are. If they are, yeah, I don't see any reason why not. Indefinitely, I don't think so. Obviously,
Because four teams, perfect, 12 points. That's a pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
they're playing Brighton at home.
Oh, that's winnable. That's definitely winnable.
Are they staying undefeated?
I think so. In week 4.
And what about Leeds? They're playing Manchester City coming up, and Manchester City got their noggins beat in by Leicester. They're a little bit shaky. They got a shaky defense. It's Leeds at home.
No, sorry, Leeds.
They can't even get 1 point.
I'm not saying that they can't. I don't think it's likely that they'll get a point. I think that they'll lose, but they might put up a couple of goals. They might score like 2 or something. Don't put it past Leeds.
Okay. And, of course, we have Manchester United versus Tottenham. That's going to be a big game. That's really one of the only big game, Big Six matchup.
Yeah.
Balance of power.
The big power.
That's
Power Six matchup.
There. Speaking of which, we'll get into our picks, and we do have Manchester United against Tottenham.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be Manchester United at home, and the spread we saw from the computers was saying Manchester United's advantage by 1.06 goals. So they're saying about a goal. And what do we have?
I think that's fair. We have the +1 for Manchester United.
Could easily see this being +2 for them, or
yeah. Tottenham, they got things to figure out still. They just lost to Everton, so
to start the season.
A couple of things going on there. Plus, they got to figure out what's going on with Gareth Bale. I don't know why I said Christian anything.
I think his knee's still. He's still got an injury that he's working through. But they're a little bit shorthanded, and they just haven't clicked. They got a few new players, Højbjerg and Doherty playing in there, but Manchester United doesn't look particularly incredible right now. But they closing the end of the season last season, it just seems like they've got the momentum. They've got good players. Pogba hasn't really activated yet. And so when we see United on all cylinders, especially at home, I don't see how Tottenham is going to –
Yeah.
I mean, you can always see
I'm optimistic for Tottenham. Yeah, don't get me wrong. But, I think throughout the season, if Tottenham can pull it together, pull the team, they're getting there. But it's just going to be time.
And also Arsenal Sheffield. And the reason I pull this in is I just feel so bad for Sheffield. They lost to Leeds. They haven't gotten a single point.
Mm-hmm.
They have 3 losses to start the season, and this is a team that did really good last year. So against Arsenal, can they pull it together? We have the computer saying Arsenal's supposed to win by 0.62 goals, so leaning towards an Arsenal win.
Mm-hmm.
Do we see a draw here? Can Sheffield manage something? What's our pick, Richard?
Not according to us. I just don't know that they can. They had an opportunity to prove themselves against Leeds, like a Leeds that can put up a bunch of points, sure, but
we're saying Arsenal by 1.
Yeah, Arsenal by 1.
And we did say Sheffield will score a goal, right?
Yeah,
they couldn't score one against Leeds, but they'll score one against Arsenal.
They got to score. They got to score.
I think
points.
they're going to feel like they have to, and they're going to do something. Yeah, so that's our picks for English Premier League, and that wraps up our talk for that. Let's bring into the just whatever else is going on around sports. And
yeah. We don't have too much detail necessarily. I mean, there's a couple of things going on, and we can start
things
with
you need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Things that are definitely on the docket and highlights things that you should know if you want to be a good conversational piece.
Yeah.
go home to the family dinner.
You got to know that the Tampa Bay Lightning just beat the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that was pretty big for them. It's been,
Monday
like you
night.
said, at the top, a long time coming.
Yeah, the last time the Lightning have won the Stanley Cup before was 2002-2003 season, but look at the Lightning. I mean, well, first of all, let's start out with what did you think about the series? Did the Lightning deserve to win? What was going on? I mean, they were pretty clear
throughout the entirety of the playoffs, or just the series. There's just the Stanley Cup series.
Just the series. How about?
I was
6 games.
I was worried about them because they had to play an extra game in the Eastern Conference Finals. Which gave Dallas Stars an extra 2 days of rest.
Right, and
Dallas Stars came out boxing really hard in Game 1.
Ended up winning game 1.
Yeah,
and
it just didn't look good.
By winning Game 5 as well. That's a tough one to lose.
Yeah.
When you're ahead, you start to feel it slip away a little bit.
Yeah, but they got to win 3 in a row from there. You maybe take the gas off the pedal, or your foot off the pedal a little bit, so that you can, if you do end up winning, good job. But you go into Game 6 with full rest.
Right.
I think that they did perfectly fine.
Yeah, the power play was killer for the Lightning.
Yeah.
And it was something that the Lightning hasn't activated for the Lightning in years past. Now, we're talking about a team, I guess before we get into that, still, we're going to name Victor Hedman, who did really well throughout the playoffs. He had 10 goals in the playoffs.
Yeah, as a defenseman, I think that was like the most in a long time.
It was like, the only two players have had more goals as a defenseman. And he led the Tampa Bay Lightning in ice time throughout the playoffs.
Yeah.
So well-deserved by Victor Hedman. Totally the leader and captain of that squad. The defense was really good.
Yeah, no.
When they needed to, they would lock things up.
Yeah, they did a really good job as far as just getting there and wreaking havoc.
Play physically.
Yeah, I was gonna say when you started to see them, especially in the Stanley Cup series, they were physical. They were hitting hard and they were taking hard hits too, but they were getting back up and fighting.
Yep. And if you look at Tampa Bay over the last few years, this is a team that was destined to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, as a Tampa Bay fan, full disclosure, it would have been so sad if they didn't win this year because this was it.
Yeah.
In 2015, they went to the Stanley Cup Finals and lost to Chicago. The next 2 years, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost in both of those. I'm blanking. I know they lost to the Pittsburgh. Of course, Pittsburgh.
Bruins? No.
Penguins, and then also the Capitals. They lost a couple years after that. So twice they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals since then. And then last season, when they were the best team, they won the President's Cup or trophy. They got swept in the first round against the very underdog Columbus Blue Jackets. So they ridded themselves of that curse by beating the Blue Jackets in the first round this year. And then they cruised 5 games against Boston, took 6 games to beat the Islanders. But to avoid a 7-game series throughout the playoffs is pretty good. I mean, that means that you were definitively...
It's excellent. They only had 5 losses. Was it 5 losses throughout the entirety of the...
Right, and they never lost after a loss.
Yeah.
So, good rebound. Final game, Vasilevsky did incredibly well. So this was just a long time coming, a long journey for Tampa Bay to finally hoist that cup. They've been the better team in the NHL. They've been the best team, I think, for the better part of a decade.
And you know what was real special was Steven Stamkos, team captain, wasn't able to play because he's been injured for a while. Got to hoist first of all, they brought him out in game 2, and he scored with only 2 minutes on the ice.
Less than 2 minutes this entire postseason.
Yeah, and scored which is just incredible for him. And he got to.
That was a big win too. Early lead in a big game, pivotal game.
They needed it, yeah, for sure. But he was the one that they gave to hoist the Stanley Cup, which was just a really special thing for him because for a long time he's been the Tampa Bay's.
Yeah, him and Hedman have been in the organization about the same time, but Stamkos was before. I remember drafting Stamkos. I mean, that was back when Lightning weren't good, and he's been through the entire rise. And like I said, this has been a team that's been on the precipice of winning for a while now. So kudos to them.
Yep.
Now we move on to the NBA, where the Heat and the Lakers are going to be tipping off here. And, the Lakers beat the Nuggets in 5 games. The Heat advanced over the Celtics, which I don't think a lot of people expected them to.
Yep.
They had to beat the Bucks and the Celtics to get to the finals.
I mean, they were the fifth seed.
Right.
So they weren't certainly not the first, they weren't the number one, they weren't the expected, certainly out of that side of that side of the.
They've just overperformed. They've got a good team chemistry, good team play, and they don't have a superstar besides Jimmy Butler, but they've got some guys that all contribute and get it done.
Yeah. I mean,
Adebayo, of course.
Yeah, I'm not like the biggest. Yeah, I'm not like the biggest viewer of NBA, but
right, we don't. Admittedly,
yeah, and so I don't. I don't think that I have like a particularly great insight, but just to see, like a team like that coming in, they had to go through a lot of challenges. But you were mentioning that people locally were pretty. People in Miami, in the Miami area, were pretty confident about the way that the team looked and their chances in the playoffs. Anecdotally, at least. Yeah,
people had a feeling that they were going. You could see that this was a good team if you watched them. I think, and so people that I was listening to were saying, "Hey, don't sleep on the Heat." And here they are in the finals. Obviously, the Lakers have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Now, that pairing is just it's been incredible. They have the 2 best players on the court.
Oh, for sure.
For the finals. Now, the Heat have been a better maybe team play, but that's going to be something where I think a lot of people are going to favor the Lakers in this one. This game is going to tip off tonight. This is dropping Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hump day morning.
Night, 9:00 Eastern. So it's I guess they're still in Orlando, but
Yeah, the bubble. But I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be anxious to wrap that up too. Does playing quick questions? Does playing in Florida do anything for Heat? They gotta defend home turf.
No.
Okay.
Well, maybe. I mean, they've succeeded
How they got
above
this far,
expectations, so who knows? Maybe they're not allowed to hang out with family or anything, are they?
No, I don't. I think that they've been pretty isolated. Quick pick. Who you taking?
Okay.
To win the whole thing.
This is putting me on the spot. I think a lot of people would say the Lakers, but I've seen a lot of other, data and data-oriented people that some are split, but I'm going to go with the Heat.
Yeah?
I think the Heat.
Do they go to Game 7?
Not necessarily.
Yeah?
This could be a Game 6 finale here with the Heat winning. It's interesting. Some people that I see, they use two different metrics. They have the Lakers winning with one barely, and they have the Heat winning with a big amount using a different type of metric. So, different. Yeah, it's interesting. The playoff experience is not as deep for Heat, so that's what it could come down to as well. You've got LeBron James. I mean, he's going to be able to captain that. Look what he did with Cleveland. Mm-hmm. He was never supposed to win that one.
Yeah.
But he
35
just
years
the
old,
troops.
but he looks good on the court still.
Yeah,
what I mean?
So I'm going to take the Heat in this one if I had to pick.
Mm-hmm.
But and I don't think it necessarily goes 7 games. But,
yeah.
But it always depends.
Yeah, I think I'll sit on the other side of that one. I'm gonna go LA, but I'm thinking also that it doesn't go to 7 necessarily. Yeah. I think that LA is gonna be a little cautious but optimistic. So I think cautiously optimistic going into this, and I think this will be LeBron's if he can win it. First 3 different teams.
That'll be interesting.
I think that's only a handful of people have done that. So.
Yeah. Does he retire if he wins this year?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. Keep your eye on Hero and Jimmy Butler on the Heat, and of course Davis and James.
Yep.
On the Lakers. Going into Major League Baseball to wrap up this episode.
Mm-hmm.
We've got playoffs, and there's not a lot to go over. I mean, we want to talk a little bit, but basically just want to catch everyone up on the playoff format, because this is a weird one. This is totally different than what they usually do. Usually it's the division winners. You got 3 from each side, 3 from each conference, whatever.
Yeah.
League. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyone not familiar with how the playoffs are going to work this year?
And then you've got 2 wildcard teams, and usually the 2 wildcard teams play a 1-game playoff, and the winner is that 4th team on each thing, and you just do a 4-team bracket. This time they pulled 8 teams from each league, and so you've got the top 8 seeded 1 through 8, and you've got a total bracket going up. So the way it's going to be is the first series, the first game, so to speak, of the bracket is going to be a 3-game series. First 1 to 2 wins advances. Then, like normal in the American League Divisional Series, National League Divisional Series, you've got a 5-game series, first to 3 wins, and then your 7-game series in the league championships for each side. So that's a 7-game series, first to 4. Interesting, odd. I kind of like it, though. I kind of like the 3-5-7. I've always kind of thought that they should do that anyway with the wild card teams.
Yeah. That's where I was going to go with that, is that, I don't necessarily see the need to expand to as many teams as they have right now. It's a lot of teams.
It's just because it's a short season, and they didn't want to gyp some teams that.
That's a good point. But I thought that they were looking at this beforehand. I mean, season 1 we talked, SEP season, short end of the pick season 1 we talked about that. This is something they've been considering for a long time.
Maybe this is something going forward.
So I mean, they might continue to do it. I don't know if it's. It's okay for I think it's okay for the sport generally. I think that it gives up an opportunity to smaller teams that may not necessarily have any opportunity to be making these regularly. But if they're in the playoffs now there's
people are more excited,
merch and stuff like that.
They've had attendance problems in the last few years. Yep. So this is one way you can get more fans in the stands. Yeah. Later through the season, instead of giving up. Yeah,
but I do really like exactly what you said. The 3-game series I think would be a lot better just from the sake of the actual, it's not just one off day where you had a bad day.
One off in baseball is so weird.
Yeah.
It's like it's your
And
best
it
pitcher
happens.
versus ours. I mean, I like it where you have a 3-game, but the highest seeded teams get to skip that.
Yeah.
So that would in that way you would keep the 2 wild cards. So hopefully they can use that moving forward, because then the teams that did well, they get a break.
Yeah.
And before moving forward.
I think that would be fair, but if we continue to see it the way that it is right now, I think that's okay too. I mean, like you said, the attendance would be nice.
So we have Dodgers, who are the obvious favorites in the National League, and
By
then you've got
a long shot.
Yeah, and then but there's other teams. I mean, Braves are up there as well.
Yeah.
And in the American League, it's Rays and Athletics, number 1 and 2. But you also got the Yankees down there, the Astros, who are missing Justin Verlander now. I think he's got Tommy John.
Yeah.
But there are the Yankees down there. There are the Indians. There are a couple other teams. And so what are we thinking here? I mean, Rays are number 1 seed, but should they be?
You were kind of like floating a couple of interesting statistics as far as who's like the most likely to come out on top overall for the entire World Series, and Rays are sitting at the second most likely behind the Dodgers.
Barely, yeah.
I think that the Rays, it's interesting to see that the number 1 and the number 2 teams and you mentioned this all the time. This is something that you talk about all the time. Are some of the lower spenders.
Yeah.
The Rays and the Athletics, at least on the American side. And so I kind of think that maybe goes to it talks to a team's ability to actually select players that are going to be statistically good for that position,
right,
for certain positions, and then make the money that you have count holistically.
That's exactly what they do. That's what the Rays do. The Rays do. They don't have a closer. They have whatever pitcher is best against the guy they're facing, and that mentality, that analytic mentality, matchup mentality, is what has driven the Rays to this success. Remember, last season they almost knocked off the Astros, who ended up losing in the World Series. But that was huge. I mean, the Rays spent less money than any team in baseball last season. So this is what they do, and this is they've been doing this for a long time. But now with Cash at the helm, they're doing it pretty good, and who knows?
Yeah, I think that this weird season, the 60-game season, is, and I don't know, this was something that this is just going to be really quick. This was something that they had floated last year. I don't know if they actually followed through with. They were going to have a 2-pitch or 2 player minimum for pitchers that were going to come out. Did they actually follow through with that?
I haven't been watching enough to know exactly what's been going on. But
if they hadn't, then I think that advantages the Rays.
With that opener,
I'm a little impartial because I like the Rays.
Starting pitcher comes out for 1 inning. Is that what you're talking
exactly, about? Exactly. Yeah. Like you can't. I think they have to face minimum 2 batters. Is the rule. So you bring out your left-handed pitcher. And then right afterwards bring out a right-handed pitcher, just to change it up, just to get the one guy out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if they haven't implemented that rule, I think that the Rays have a pretty reasonable, a little more substantial advantage than I might otherwise see. I don't know. There's a lot of good teams in the American League right now that could take it.
It's pretty evenly split in the American League. Dodgers are heavy favorites, I think, but with that, I don't think we can make any more picks. We'll look at this as it goes through. Right?
Yeah, we got to just follow it. I think that it'll be fun to follow.
It'll be fun. Yep. So that moves us into our final segment, which is Dick's Picks and Captain's Log.
So this one up till now we've been picking as a unit. We've been picking a consensus pick for the 2 NFL games we
bring
did.
You guys the best picks.
Of course we do, because we always do the little calculations. We have the data, but there's also a little bit of heart. A little bit of heart there, and the little bit of sprinkle of the heart is what does it. That's what makes the food taste good, and that's what makes our picks look good.
But for Dick's Picks and Captain's Log, we're going to each make our pick on the same game,
but separately. So we won't be looking.
We're going to each make a pick. And we'll see whose is better. You all comment down below what you think about this game, and we'll see who can get the best pick on what's going to happen here. It's going to be Auburn at Georgia, our college football.
That's a good
big matchup of the week.
Big SEC matchup, a couple of really good teams. That's going to be tough. Do you want to go with Captain's Log first?
Yes. I'm going to pick Georgia to win.
Georgia to win.
By 3.
Ooh.
I picked the spread, too.
A very, very tight... Oh, I picked a spread, too.
Okay.
A very, very tight matchup, I see.
Yeah. I mean, how can this not be tight? It's Auburn, Georgia.
Yeah, I wonder what
both
they're
playing.
Do you remember? Did they play last year?
I think they did.
Do you remember what their
I don't know.
what their score was? Anyway, I mean they are both like really good defenses, just solid defense. SEC, come on, what do you expect? But they also have pretty powerful offenses as well. So
yeah, Auburn has a great offense.
So it's just one of those things. It's like, who can they break through? Can they not? And you're saying,
I think Georgia's going to win, and they're higher rated, they're higher ranked, and yeah, I think it's at Georgia as well.
Standout players or anything like that?
No,
just a good team unit going after it.
Just Georgia's going to be Georgia.
Yeah.
Defense and rushing the ball.
They got to represent the East.
And they'll try to run the ball as much as possible, as often as possible, down at Auburn's throat and wear them down and take up clock. Because Auburn with the ball and time, Auburn can score a lot of points. But if Georgia can keep this thing, wear them down, grind them out, they'll escape. It'll be close. Auburn will push for the end, and it's going to be a field goal that decides it.
I, too, am going to pick Georgia, but I think I'm a little bit more confident in where they will be, and I'm going to pick them +6.
Oh, okay.
I think that the spread was 6.5. I was gonna
say that too.
I was gonna pick 7. I saw the spread say 6.5. I was considering 7, and I said, you know what, let's just go on the lower end there. I'm surprised they ended up picking 3, but that's a really, really solid pick. I think that.
Yeah, I had to go under that spread just because this is. Yeah, it's just two really good teams facing off. It's hard to pick a winner at all in this one. I mean, what's to say Auburn can't come in here and get a win?
Yeah, it's very true. It's hard to.
I think Georgia has, their squad's shaken up a little bit from last season as far as talent. Not totally. I mean, they still have Fields, I think. So,
but that'll be a good game. That's something to watch. And the big pick of the week, Dick's Picks, Captain's Log.
Yeah, make sure you hit the like button.
Yeah.
Subscribe to follow along with us everywhere. We're giving you guys the best picks. We're giving you guys the best commentary, catching up with everything around sports world. This we got a lot in this one.
Yeah.
This was lots of stuff going on. But every week we're gonna have NFL, college football, and English Premier League to keep you guys up to speed.
Yeah.
So like the video and subscribe and comment your picks down below.
Comment them down below. That's the most important because you can track with us how you do versus us. Maybe you got a little bit better.
Yeah.
I don't think you do. Maybe
we'll
you don't.
We'll post our picks on Twitter. So go ahead and give us a follow at Podcast SCP, and Instagram as well. Same handle. So that's about it.
Yeah. We're coming in every Wednesday morning. So
that's right.
Bright and early. Come join us on Hump Day, and we'll get you through the week.
Yep. That wraps up this episode of Short End of the Pick. Make sure, once again, you hit the subscribe button, click the like button if you enjoyed the vid, and comment your picks down below. With that, this has been another episode of Short End of the Pick with Richard and Kurt. We'll catch you all in the next week. Until then.